The day is finally here. Star Wars The Last Jedi is finally out in theaters, and I just got back from seeing it, and I am very excited to talk about it. I had to shut my door because I was being kind of loud. But anyway, was it worth the wait? I would say so, at least for the most part. I mean, Rian Johnson kind of had a tough task on his hand anyway, taking over for J.J. Abrams since The Force Awakens was such a massive success. I mean, it relaunched Star Wars, under Disney, obviously. And I'd say I probably enjoyed this more overall compared to Force Awakens. And to get this out of the way now, no, this film does not parallel Empire Strikes Back, like how The Force Awakens paralleled A New Hope in a lot of ways. So I'm just getting that off the bat right there. No, it doesn't. It's going to be kind of difficult to describe a lot of the things in this film since I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible, but at least I'll do my best to. As far as Star Wars goes, at least, I'd have to say this is actually a pretty dark film. It's actually kind of bleak in some parts. I won't go into the full plot, but there's obviously a couple stories going on at the same time. Obviously, one of them being Rey going to see Luke Skywalker, which I think is my personal favorite story of all the stories in the film. Like I expected, Mark Hamill was my favorite part of this whole film, pretty much. I mean, I can't praise him enough as Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker is just awesome. Obviously, it's not the same Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy, since a lot of stuff has gone down since, Return of the Jedi. Leading him, isolating himself, and all the stuff that happens in the film, and explains why he did so, which is really interesting, by the way. I hope that they explore what happens in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens in some type of, media, whether it be, a film, or comics, or literally anything, because it just sounds so interesting, especially, from the stuff you do learn in this film about it. Daisy Ridley does a really solid job as well, building on her performance from The Force Awakens. She's probably one of my favorite of the new characters, just because I guess I like her more than Finn and Poe. I mean, that's not really saying much. But she works really well with Mark Hamill in this film. They just seem to have really good chemistry, and it actually gave her some really solid character growth in the film because of it. The things she learns from Luke along the way, which probably will lead into episode 9 in some form. Another highlight is definitely Carrie Fisher's performance. She actually has a more predominant role in this one compared to the previous one. And she makes the most of it, especially, for it being her swan song, since she did unfortunately pass away. There's actually a few things in this film involving Carrie Fisher that I would say is pretty surprising, just because of, you'll see what it happens. I'm not going to go into more details, but they surprised me, so I definitely have to touch upon it. Also, you get some really good character growth from Kylo Ren, since they actually explain a lot more of his backstory in this one. I mean, if you were expecting, less temper tantrums, if that was one of the things that bothered you in the previous film with his temper tantrums, you're still going to not like him very much, because he still does throw a few of them. But I've always liked Adam Driver's, performance as Kylo Ren, so they don't bother me as much. I mean, they were kind of funny, at least. I don't know if they're meant to be that funny. Speaking of funny, there was actually some genuinely really funny moments in this film that I was not expecting out of this, because it's supposed to be kind of dark. Some of them even involved the Porgs, which I really didn't expect to even like at all, since they are kind of they're in there to sell merchandise. But some of the jokes did miss. Most of them hit, though. I did like a lot of them. Some of them are pretty slapsticky. They remind me of the Marvel films, which obviously are also made by Disney. So if you like that kind of humor from the Marvel films, you're definitely going to like the humor of this film. Now we're moving on to the negatives I have with this film, which there aren't too many of, but there are a few I have to touch upon. For starters, like I said earlier with the different storylines going on, I just didn't really like Finn's storyline that much in this film. Don't get me wrong, I get why he's there, he has to be there, but his story just really wasn't that interesting to me. I like John Boyega, his performance was fine, it's just, I really would have just much rather had more storyline for somebody else than his storyline, or just have his wrapped up a lot quicker than it did. Another negative, don't get me wrong, I do love Star Wars, but I felt like this film was a little bit too long. I mean, it's over 2.5 hours long, and you could have cut a good amount of the story and it probably would have still been fine. But, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there's other people that thought it was fine, the length, but, I just really didn't think it needed to be 2.5 hours long. And the final one that I'm not going to touch on too much, because it is really spoilery, I really thought that Supreme Leader Snoke was really underwhelming as a whole, but I'm not going to touch upon it at all. I'm just saying I'm really underwhelmed by him. Anyway, moving on to my score for the film, I'd have to give Star Wars The Last Jedi a B+. It's tough for me to decide where I would rank The Last Jedi and all of the Star Wars films, since I've only seen The Last Jedi once right now. And I'm sure it'll change, but right now I'd probably at least say it's in the top 4 of all of the Star Wars films. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a really fun movie. I definitely recommend checking it out. Definitely go see it. Anyway, thank you for checking out my review. Feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts. What did you think of the film? Hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.